Hey everybody, this is Jim and welcome back to another lesson of Introduction to Korn Shell. Over the past two lessons we've gone over the if statement, which is if a condition is true, then execute a certain block of code. However, if it's false, then do absolutely nothing. Skip down to the fi statement and continue on with your program from there. However, today I want to introduce the concept of, well, if the test condition comes out false, let's do something else. In other words, if your test condition is true, execute block of code A. If it's false, execute block of code B. And in either case, after you're done executing either block of code A or block of code B, go down to the fi statement and start executing your program from there. Okay, let's get started. As always, first row, first column, pound, exclamation point, /bin, /ksh, the name of your program. A little bit about what the program does. This program introduces the else inside of an if statement. And your name, contact information. First thing we're going to do is we are going to prompt the user, print -n for no carriage return, to enter the number of children they have. And we're going to read it into a variable called number of children, oddly enough. Now, if the person has absolutely no children, then we want to execute one set of code, else we want to execute another set of code. So let's look at the general format of how an if, then, else, fi statement works. If test condition is true, then execute all of the lines from the then statement until the else statement, and then go down to the fi statement. Once you're at the fi statement, continue execution of the program from then on in. However, if you run the test condition and it comes out to be false, then I want you to skip over the then portion. I want you to go to the else portion and execute all the lines of code from the else all the way down to the fi, and then continue on with your program. So once again, if a test condition is true, then execute your first block of code. Otherwise, if the test condition is false, then execute a different set of code which is contained in the else to the fi portion. Okay, so in this case we're saying if the number of children is equivalent to 0, then we're going to print you get to go out on Friday nights. However, if the number of children is not equal to 0, then we print bummer, things could be worse, you could be a Cubs fan. And once again, in order to do an conditional if test with numbers, you put everything inside of the double parens, and to do an equivalency test within an if statement, within a conditional test statement, you put double equal sign, because if you put the single equal sign, it will assign 0 to number of children. Let's run this puppy. So to run it, we of course have to make it executable. And then we just tell the operating system where the program is. It's in our present directory, and its name is ifmath3.ksh. Enter the number of children you have, 0. you get to go out on Friday night, which was the true part of the if condition. As you can see, it executed the portion of the if statement that was in the then code, in other words the true portion, and it skipped over the portion that was in the else portion, which was what would happen if the condition is false. Let's rerun this program. Enter number of children, 6. Now as you can see, it did go to the else portion. It says, bummer, things could be worse, you could be a Cubs fan. Now notice in either portion, it did go down to the phi and started executing the code right after the phi, which was just simply to say print high.